Wait, what? Welcome to my delayed reaction to the 49ers signing Christian Kirk. It blew my mind so much yesterday that I couldn't go live. I went live before it happened, and then it happened, and I made an instant reaction, so I have an instant reaction that lives in perpetuity, but now I have to give my delayed reaction because my mind is still so blown that Christian Kirk. I've always been such a big Christian Kirk fan, admired his game from afar. Now I get to watch him up close for who knows, 7, 8 games. It depends how long his hamstring holds up. So let's start right there with Christian Kirk. Let's grade the signing. The thing about Christian Kirk is he used to be really good. He's a classic 49ers edition. They got him at a discount. He's not young. He'll be 30 this season. And he used to be, he had a lot of talent. He was a high draft pick. If he stays healthy, it's possible the Niners got a real bargain. If he stays healthy, he could be better than Juwan Jennings as the Niners slot receiver. But the if he stays healthy part is doing a lot of work, as it does with most 49er players. He didn't stay healthy last year. He didn't stay healthy the year before that. He had one good game in the playoffs last year, and then he played another playoff game and stunk. So that's all we got and I think what's interesting about the signing is the Niners need him to stay healthy and produce. He is their third down guy now. They also have Mike Evans. Mike Evans could be really good if he stays healthy, but look at how he was used in Tampa. Last year, he caught 4 passes on third down. What'd you say, Grant? Four, Grant. Yeah, I talked to myself. Four catches on 13 targets. So he was doing most of his work on first and second down, maybe off play action, maybe outside the numbers. I don't think he's going to be really replacing Juwan Jennings he's not going to be third and Mike Evans. And God knows when George Kittle comes back and what he'll be when he comes back. So Christian Kirk is really important. And I just want to read to you his numbers from last year. He played 13 games. He started 3 of them. He was targeted 52 times. He caught 28 of those targets. That's 53%. He gained 239 yards through the air. He averaged 8.5 yards per catch, by far the lowest of his career, and he only caught 53.8% of his catches. Why was he so bad? Because he had a hamstring injury. Because he's old. I'm sorry. As someone who's older than him, I feel like I'm allowed to say he's old. He had that one good game in the playoffs, then came right back down to earth. And it's like the Niners have cornered the market on wide receivers who are battling hamstring issues. This guy had a hamstring issue that plagued him all of 2025. Mike Evans pulled his hamstring 2 seasons in a row, and he's going to be 33 this year. And George Kittle tore his hamstring week 1 last year. So I love how the Niners don't care at all about these things. They have the worst training staff. They have that weird electrical substation, and they are cornering the market on older wide receivers with hamstring issues. So I don't know. No one knows if Christian Kirk's going to play all season. Odds are he won't, considering he played 13 of 18 games last year and 13 of 17 games. I know how many games are in an NFL season. I cover the sport for a living. He played 13 games in 2025. He played 8 games in 2024. He played 12 games in 2023. So he's missed an average of like 6 games this season for 3 years in a row. Although when he was 26 in 2022, hell of a player. 84 catches, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. Since then, 5 touchdowns total. So he seems more like, the Robbie Chosens or the Andy Isabellas. Like, there's a chance he doesn't make the team, which would be rough because they need him to make the team. They need him to stay healthy. They don't need him to be 2022 Christian Kirk, but they could really use 2023 Christian Kirk, who played 12 games, caught 57 passes, gained 787 yards. They need that guy. He was 27 at that time. Now he'll be 30. I wouldn't have. See, to me, I'm so lukewarm on this. Is he even better than Kendrick Bourne? Kendrick Bourne had a remarkably solid season, and it seemed like the 49ers kind of shut him down because they didn't want to keep giving him extra like bonus money. Plus, Juwan Jennings was having a nervous breakdown, and it seemed like Bourne was taking money out of Jennings' pocket because Bourne was showing the whole world that he could do Jennings' job just as well as Jennings, if not better. I mean, last year, Kendrick Bourne, 37 catches, 551 yards, even though they phased him out, no touchdowns. Passer rating when targeted, 87. Okay. What about Christian Kirk? What was his passer rating when targeted? 40. Oh, okay. In 2023, it was 98. In 2024, it was 72. Jacksonville got rid of him. Houston brought him on. And Houston thought he was going to be their number 3 receiver or their number 2. They had Nico Collins and they needed someone else. They brought in him. He was the 5th best wide receiver for them all year. I mean, Xavier Hutchinson was better. They had 2 rookies who were better, Jalen Noel and Higgins. That's why he's not there anymore. I mean, the fact that he should not be number 3 on the depth chart in 2026. He'd be 5th on that awful Texans offense. I just think it's unfortunate that the Niners seem to have lost all interest in developing young players, at least on offense. And I have a theory. I think it comes back to the injury excuse. The Niners just are addicted to it. They love it so much because we give it to them. It's our fault. We give them the injury excuse. So they keep bringing in older injured players or older players who have either a history of injuries or are coming off a season full of injuries. And they tell us, hey, man, you just don't know what can happen in the future. You don't know that because the guy's 30 and had injuries the last 2 years that he's going to get hurt again next year. No, but I would, if I had to put money on one or the other, I'd put money on him getting hurt as opposed to him playing 17 games. I mean, is Mike Evans like just a couple of years ago, they had Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, and Juwan Jennings. And it fell apart because all of them were upset and didn't get the money they wanted, or it didn't work out. Got hurt, got old. Now you got Mike Evans at 33. He's older than all those guys. And Christian Kirk on his last leg, and Ricky Pearsall, who hasn't established himself yet. Is that a good wide receiver room? It has the potential if it stays healthy, but all 3 of your top wide receivers are injury risks. All 3 of them. Soft tissue stuff. Pearsall's had hamstring stuff in the offseason. I don't like the Christian Kirk signing. I would give it a D because I think this player was important. They would have been better off bringing back Kendrick Bourne. And again, I could be wrong. And if I am, I'll be happy to say so. But where did Christian Kirk even come from? How did he get on their freaking radar? I don't get that. Is it because he went to the same college as Mike Evans? Did Mike Evans campaign for him? It seems like the players are picking are choosing up the squad now. George Kittle wanted to bring in Mike Evans, so they brought in Mike Evans, and Mike Evans wanted to bring in Christian Kirk. Brock Purdy's a fan of Christian Kirk because he grew up in Arizona watching Christian Kirk when Brock was in high school or playing in Arizona. Again, it's a classic Niners signing. They didn't overpay. In a vacuum, you can't call it a bad move because it's not risky at all. It's a 1-year deal. But like, do you really want to waste time and money on this guy? Isn't there someone else you could have gotten? Don't tell me that you saved money. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. You call yourself on a quest for 6. How is this guy part of it? And not only that, like, not only does Christian Kirk have to replace Juwan Jennings on 3rd down, he has to replace Sky Moore as the returner. He has to do a lot of work this year, more than he's done the last few years. Sky Moore was a really good returner. Christian Kirk is a better receiver than Sky Moore when healthy, although I couldn't help but notice that when the Niners would go 2-minute drill and Mac Jones was the quarterback and he would just throw to whoever he wanted to, he would throw to Sky Moore and it would work out. Sky Moore has potential. Christian Kirk has potential to get hurt. And again, it's like you had Sky Moore, an ascending 25-year-old player, and you replaced him with 30-year-old Christian Kirk. You had Spencer Burford, ascending 25-year-old guard. It took you 4 years to find his position. You finally found it. He held it down. You're replacing him with 30-year-old Brett Toth. Okay. You're doing a lot of moving. You're doing a lot of stuff. And are you really making your team better? Osa Odigizua? Hell yeah. Adding Dre Greenlaw was just great. He doesn't necessarily make your team. I mean, we don't know what he's going to do this year, but you didn't get rid of anyone to bring him in. You got rid of Jawan Jennings to bring in Christian Kirk. You got rid of Jawan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne to bring in Mike Evans and Christian Kirk. And on paper, when healthy, the Niners got better there. But Jawan Jennings, even though he's usually hurt, he doesn't miss a lot of games. How many games did he miss last year? Let's see. 2. And the year before that, he missed 2. Kendrick Bourne missed 1. Was he not? Did he miss a game, or was he just not on the team? So you let 2 guys go who like somehow, some way stayed on the field for the San Francisco 49ers. You take that for granted. You let them go, and you bring in guys who haven't been able to stay on the field for their respective teams, and now you bring them over to Substation Magoo, Substation Central, with Dustin Perry leading the way. That's going to work. Did you guys listen to George Kittle's interview with Bussin' with the Boys? It was so long. But there were some interesting things in there. Not that I listened to the whole thing. He said that he, broke his, he tore his Achilles. And so we got this like gravity-free treadmill. And the boys were like, oh, I don't like it. It's clunky. And he's like, nah. The old one's clunky. I got the new one. It's great. The Niners have the old one in their training facility. It sucks. We know the Niners training facility got a C-. They must have really old equipment in there that hasn't been replaced in a while. And the best players in the team, like Kittle and Bosa and Juszczyk and Warner and Williams, are rich, so they can buy their own stuff. But what about if you're Jacob Cowing and you pull your hamstring and you're making a league minimum and you're using the Niners' outdated stuff? Christian Kirk's made some money. Maybe he could afford to get himself back on the field, because guess what? It ain't going to be Dustin Perry and the Niners getting you back on the field. The Niners will pay for a lot of stuff. They'll keep you fed. They'll get you the best weights. They'll let you sleep on the plane if you're a starter or tall. But if you get hurt, you're on your own, buddy. And you better get on the field super duper fast. And even if there's nothing you can do and you have a catastrophic injury and you're laying in your bed and you're pissing in a cup, they might try to trade you. And if you take issue with that, they're going to ruin your reputation and try to ruin your whole career. Other than that, though, it's a great place to play. Where else would you want to play? It's one of the better organizations out there. Player-friendly place for certain players. It's a great culture. Everyone likes each other except for that one guy that they completely ostracized, and now they're holding him hostage. Let's talk about him real quick, and then we'll move on to other stuff, because I know Niner fans really don't care anymore. And actually, I think they're getting off on the Brandon Aiyuk thing. So let's just talk. I'm not here to moralize or wag my finger at the 49ers, because Lord knows I don't know what happened between Brandon Aiyuk and them. And Aiyuk wasn't blameless, and he wasn't a saint, but neither were the Niners. So let's just talk about the future, not the past. How long is this going to drag on? When are they going to finally cut him? And I think when I say think, they're going to cut him. They're framing it as, hey, look, we're not being petty. We're not being vindictive. What? Why would you assume that? Why would you think that we're not vindictive? We love Brandon. This is business. And Brandon is such an asset. He's such a good player. We don't just give away good players. What? No, there's people want Brandon. The Washington Commanders want him. So we're going to trade him. And we can't trade him until after June 1st, because it would ruin our cap to trade him before June 1st. So we have to wait until June 1st minimum, so we can really see what kind of trade offers we can get and explore that avenue. That's what they're going to say. And it makes them seem like, hey, it's nothing personal. It's just the way it goes. We want to trade him because we think that highly of him. But here's the thing. No one's going to trade for Brandon Aiyuk. And it's not that Brandon Aiyuk is done or he's worthless. It's that his contract is now defunct. No one's going to pay him all that money. Just because they voided his guarantees doesn't mean that they voided the whole contract. If he's on a team week 1 with that contract, he's getting paid a lot of money. And no one's going to pay him. And he knows that. I'm sure he'd love to get traded to Washington, but that's not going to happen. So the story is that they're holding on until June or longer to trade him so they can actually do it without it killing their cap for 2026. The reality is that they're holding on to him until right before the season when they'll cut him. And the reason they're doing that is because, in my opinion, they're really afraid of him going to Washington and playing well. Because Brandon Aiyuk, he works very hard. It seems like he's ready to play football. He may never be the guy he was before, but it seems like he's ready to go. And if you remember in 2024, before he hurt his knee, he was not playing well. He didn't seem engaged or engaged. Is that the right word? He didn't seem like he wanted to play football for whatever reason. He seemed like he had lost. His heart wasn't in it anymore. And we've seen Niners players go through. It happened to Travarius Ward on this team in the same culture. He talked about it. Didn't get the extension he wanted. Went to Aiyuk. His heart wasn't in it in 2024. Aiyuk's heart wasn't in it in 2024. Then he got hurt. Then he had this, like, the worst experience of his life. I'm sure he hates the Niners. I'm sure the Niners hate him. All he wants to do is, I imagine, is rediscover his love of the game. And he thinks he can do it in Washington with his friend Jaden Daniels. So that's where he wants to go. It could work out. And as we talked about, Christian Kirk, big question mark. Mike Evans, big question mark. So if Brandon Aiyuk were to get cut today, he'd sign with the Washington Commanders tomorrow, and he'd be over there work. They know how Brandon Aiyuk works when he's motivated. He works his ass off. He'll be the player of the. He'll be the best player on your team in OTAs in training camp. He was that guy for them for years. We talked about it. I don't think they want that to happen. I don't think they want him to go over to Washington and become the best version of himself. And I'm not saying they're wrong for that. I understand. I mean, you bet against him. You voided his guarantees. He could have played last year. You didn't really want that to happen. You were more interested in getting out of the contract than working out and having him on the field. Who knows? Maybe they beat the Seahawks in week 18. You need 14 points to beat the Seahawks in week 18 to get the number 1 seed. Maybe you get 14 points if you have Brandon Aiyuk on your team. That's not what you wanted. You want to get out of that contract. You don't like him. He doesn't fit your culture. Whatever. He doesn't like you. Whatever. I don't know what he did. Maybe he said something. Maybe he farted. Maybe he was stinky. Maybe, you know what I mean? Sometimes public flatulence at the wrong time in the wrong place, it could really sour the relationship. But are they being vindictive? I guess. I mean, I just feel like, yeah, in the sense that they don't want him to have a good year next year. And if they can hold him onto him through training camp so he can't really get in great football shape, then good. Because what can't happen, they can't have Brandon Aiyuk have a better year than Mike Evans next year. Can't happen. Someone's getting fired if that happens. And it's within the realm of possibilities. It's not like Evans tore it up last year. He's 5 years older than Brandon Aiyuk, whose birthday is today. Happy birthday, Brandon. So if they can frustrate him, hold him out so that he signs with the Commanders right before week 1, and then maybe it takes him 4, 5, 6 weeks to get acclimated and get into football shape, that would be good for the Niners. That way they can say, see, he wasn't ready. And we got someone better, at least for now. That's what I think this is all about. It's not about trading Brandon Aiyuk. Any general manager who would actually trade for this contract would be like asking to get fired. Yeah, I want to pay Brandon Aiyuk a bunch of money when the Niners are definitely going to cut him, and we could get him for the league minimum or close to it. Let's pay him a lot of money. So I think this is going to be a story. And of course, the Niners think they're so good at controlling narratives, they don't care. Keep him on the team through training camp. Who cares? They control the narrative, right? I guess. We'll see. I'm not trying to sabotage the team. I'm just going to keep talking about it because I'm not on their payroll. If they wanted me to stop talking about Brandon Aiyuk, there's two ways. Cut him. That's the easiest way. Two, pay me $4 million cash. Make it out to Grant Cohn. Then I won't talk about him. He's on the team still. But $4 million is $4 million. I'll take it. I will sell out for $4 million. It used to be $2 million, but I feel like considering what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz, it's hard to say where the strength of the yen is going to be, or the ruble, or the dollar. So I want 4, and I'll stop talking about Brandon. That's my prediction. September he'll get cut, and then he'll go to Washington. And I feel like he'd be a sneaky good guy to draft in fantasy football. You get him late. No one thinks he can run. Who do you think's gonna have a better year next year, Brandon Aiyuk or Ricky Pearsall? What if Brandon Aiyuk? I'm just going into like fan fiction here. What if Brandon Aiyuk outproduces all of the Niners wide receivers next year? Because I think that's the interesting thing here. The Niners can say they're justified in doing everything they did because they might be. I didn't fight any of it. Maybe he was a big jerk. But there's a lot of jerks in the NFL who are good that you work with. And I'm not sure the Niners found someone better than him that they can just wash their hands and be like, well, not our problem anymore. Nah, man, he's a good wide receiver. That's why you paid him. If he bounces back and plays well for a few more years and you just ran him out of town because he didn't show up to a few check-ins with you and he was rude, he didn't kiss someone's ass, doesn't that seem like Brandon Aiyuk's biggest sin? Like this was the beginning of all of it. I mean, he didn't kiss Kyle's ass ever. And it cost him hella playing time in 2022. They had to teach him a lesson. I don't know. I kind of like that Brandon Aiyuk doesn't kiss ass. I kind of like it. And I think his story is kind of a cautionary tale of what happens when you don't kiss ass in this organization. You get phased out. All the people who are still here are like super best friends with the coach. Do you think that's real? Isn't that weird? Do you have to be best? Do you have to call him a genius and think he's the greatest to stay here? I mean, Jimmy Ward had a little bit of a clash with Kyle Shanahan. They got Jimmy the hell up out of here. Brandon Aiyuk, you seen it with Bernardo Green, right? They were chewing him out in the playoff game, and now we're here now he doesn't fit the culture. Maybe Aiyuk. I just think that Debo kissed Kyle's butt. Did Debo really like Kyle? Or was he just working Kyle? Did he know how to play the game? That's the way I saw it. I feel like he knew how to play the game and was willing to play the game. With Aiyuk, I like the fact that he either didn't know how to play the game or had no interest. Because, I mean, look, I'm not a professional football player, but if I were on the 49ers, you guys know, I would not be going out of my way to kiss Kyle's butt. I'm sorry. It's not how I'd want to spend my time. I respect him, but I wouldn't want to play that game. I have my issues with the organization as well. I'm not a big fan of how they've treated all their players. They've done some really great things, but I have some issues with them too. And players like George, who were like all in with the organization after 10 years, it's like, do you really feel that way? Or are you just unwilling to say how you really feel publicly because they keep paying you and they like you and they treat your family nice for whatever reason? Okay, that's enough, Brandon Aiyuk. Thank you for indulging me. I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done. Benno's good says, would trading for QJ or BTJ address the wide receiver issue? QJ. Who is QJ? QJ. Quentin Johnson? Brian Thomas Jr. is interesting because he was really good as a rookie when he was playing with Mac Jones. I'd be interested. Soft Francisco roster of old injury-prone players, says Ramilia. Thank you for that. Okay, let's talk about George. So I've been wringing my hands. I've been really annoying you guys. I'm really sorry. I know you guys like me during the year after the Niners lose, but when in the offseason, when they're adding players, you just want to hear that it's going to work and everything's going to be okay. And I don't really do that. Maybe you think I'm negative. I'm quality control. And I'm trying to think of how things could go bad. So when they signed Christian Kirk and Mike Evans, I'm like, man, that's a lot of hamstring injuries you just invested in. Why? You have an injury issue. Remember, we were just talking about that all year. You just brought in 2 hamstring issues. Okay. Well, what about George Kittle? Forget Mike Evans and Christian Kirk. We've talked about what to expect from them this year ad nauseum. What about George Kittle, the rest of his career? Remember a few years ago, it was 2022. I said the Niners should trade George Kittle. That was hasty. Turns out I said that about 3 seasons too early. Bill Walsh said you want to trade a guy a year early. I was going to trade George Kittle 3 years too early. That's on me. But in hindsight, I think it's fair to say that the Niners should have traded Kittle after 2024. I mean, he was 31. He came off like arguably the best season of his career. He did it all in kind of garbage time in a season that was going nowhere. The odds were against him doing it again. The odds were against his body holding up any longer. They probably should have traded him. Could have gotten a first round pick. Now, let's just review what happened to Kittle, what he did last year. Week 1, second quarter, tears his hamstring. Didn't pull it. Tore it completely, according to George Kittle. Maybe he was exaggerating, but he said he tore it on the record. He said he tore it. He confirmed that he tore it. I'll assume he's telling the truth. Either way, he had a catastrophic hamstring injury week 1, comes back, plays well, although not great. I mean, let me get George Kittle's season. How good was George last year, really? 600 yards and 7 touchdowns, 57 catches, 11 yards per reception, which was a career low. And as far as YAC goes, 4.4 yards after the catch per reception, which was also a career low. Played 11 games, which was the second lowest of his career. So let me get the game logs up just to take a peek. He tears his hamstring, comes back week 8, has no 100-yard games until Indy. 7 catches for 115 yards against Indy. That's his one big game of this season, and a touchdown. In this game, he apparently tore ankle ligaments. He said this on Bussin' with the Boys. So that's the second torn thing that happened to him last year. And then he said he tried to play through it and was favoring one side over the other because he didn't want to put his weight on the leg with the torn ankle ligaments. And then he tore his Achilles. And he did that right away in the first playoff game. He had 1 catch for 6 yards in the playoffs. Not a big playoff performer in his career. That's the one knock on George. One of the most complete tight ends of all time. But in the playoffs, this dude has 34 catches. He's been in the league like 10 years. 34 catches, 461 yards, 2 touchdowns. Career in the playoffs. Eesh. So he's coming back soon, right? Everyone's saying, hey, he's going to be back maybe week 1. Can't hold him down. Let's be real about this. Michael Crabtree tore his Achilles 10 plus years ago and came back in 6 months. He was like 25 years old. He weighed like 210, 215. Kittle's almost 33. He weighs 250, 240. You think he's coming back this year? Let's compare him to another guy who weighs about 240, tore his Achilles. Dre Greenlaw. He did a bunch of nothing in 2024. Played like a game, half a game. And then he played like half a season in 2025. And now we're thinking like, hey, man, now that he's 2 years removed from this catastrophic injury, maybe he'll be ready to do something. He's 28. He'll be 29 in May. He's 4 years younger than George Kittle. And it's taken him the better part of 2 years to recover, and he may never recover, ever. But George will, right? I think it's Niner fans. I think it's time to come to grips with the fact that George Kittle's probably never going to be George Kittle again. And he wasn't even George Kittle last year before he tore the Achilles. Career low in yards per catch and yards after catch per reception. It's not what he used to be. He's still good. He might be good when he comes back. But because there's not that many good tight ends in the NFL. But I wouldn't expect him to play much at all this year. I think it's going to be a lot like the Greenlaw recovery, where they don't rule out week 1, and then it's week 1, and we're like, hey, are you going to open up George Kittle's practice window? And they're like, nope, not this week. And we'll ask every single week, and Kyle will be like, nope, not this week. And then they'll open it up, for week 17 just to see how he does. And he'll look, he'll have some moments, but he won't be quite ready. I'm just saying, man, it wasn't just one isolated incident for Kittle last year. It was 3 major tears. 3. I mean, if Brandon Aiyuk had a season like that, you'd have to say that you wouldn't hesitate to say that his body's breaking down. But George Kittle does it, and it's like, no, that's my favorite player. I have his jersey. I have his fat head on my wall right now. I have his rookie card, man. He's never going to get old. He's invincible. Nah, I think his prime is over. And if the Niners take a tight end in round 1, I would understand it. I don't think they will. I think they're living in, la la land. I think they're living in I think they think he's going to make a full recovery. I think they think Mike Evans is going to be just great this year. And Christian Kirk. And you know why? Because if they aren't great, who cares? The Niners always have the injury excuse in their back pocket. I think that's something Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have learned. It's better, I think in their eyes, it's better to sign or acquire older players coming off injuries than to draft players. Because if you sign a player coming off an injury, he's going to be a bargain. He might be as cheap as a guy on a rookie deal, but he also has experience. And if he stays healthy, he could outperform the contract and be really good. So there is some upside there. The downside is the guy can get hurt again and miss time. But I think what the Niners learned is if an older player gets hurt and misses time, they can say, we had injury problems. You can't fault us. But if the Niners play a bunch of young players, choose to play a bunch of young players, and they don't play so well, coaches get criticized because they didn't coach them up. It's coach's fault. You wanted these guys. You drafted them. You put them on the field. They weren't ready. It's your fault. You got to get another coach who can coach these guys up. Am I wrong? Playing young guys and having them not be good is the quickest way to get fired. We got to bring in someone else who knows how to develop these players. But if you're like Colin, you're like, nah, man, my team is so good. My system is so complex. We're in a Super Bowl now window. We can't afford. We can't get these guys on the field. I'm bringing in Christian Kirk because did you see him in 2022? And people buy into it. Hey, man, I mean, you can't predict injuries. Injuries are random. Anyone could get hurt. Fred Warner got hurt last year. He never had any injury history. So who's to say that Christian Kirk has a higher likelihood of getting hurt? And then he gets hurt. But he was good for like a month. Or they won a game with him and he caught a pass in it. And then the Niners can be like, well, I mean, when we had Christian Kirk, you can't really knock us because we didn't have Christian Kirk like the whole year. But when we had him, you saw that one game when he caught that one pass. You could sort of understand what we could put together if we had Christian Kirk. Remember when the Niners used the injury excuse in 2018? They sucked that year. And it was eventually because their starting quarterback went down. But before that, it was Jerick McKinnon. Remember? They made him their big addition in free agency. Jerick freaking McKinnon, who was never any good, ever, anywhere. But they thought he was going to be Christian McCaffrey before they got Christian McCaffrey. So they gave him a bunch of money, and they were going to make him their 3-down bell cow. And they're probably going to give him 25 touches a game, which he never could handle. And he like blew out his knee right before the season started. And they used that as an excuse to, we didn't have a running back. How could you possibly knock us when we didn't have Jerick McKinnon? What do you expect Kyle Shanahan to do without Jerick McKinnon. I think it's time that as a fan base, you guys take the injury excuse away from Kyle Shanahan. They're abusing it. Abusing it when you constantly bring in players who are coming off extensive injuries and say, hey, man, hey, if we stay healthy, watch out. Okay, but what if you don't? Quest to stay healthy. Sorry, it's mill ticket. They don't take it seriously. It's all they like the injury excuse. It's why their training staff is terrible. Their training room is outdated. They probably wanted the substation there. They were like, oh, should we put it right next to a substation or move it a little bit? No, right next to it. Right next to it. Let's churn this roster as fast as we can, baby. If it wasn't for injuries, how many Super Bowls would the Niners have won over Kyle Shanahan? 17? They might have won 2 in 1 year. All right, enough of that. Richard Sherman has a podcast. He used to play for the 49ers. He knows their culture. He says they need a veteran safety. He says a veteran safety would really calm that whole unit down. It makes sense to me. I wouldn't disagree with them. I feel like the Niners could have gotten a veteran safety in free agency. There were a bunch available, and they let the whole market go. And now if they wanted to bring in a veteran safety, I mean, they could bring in Jimmy Ward, who I like. He didn't play football last year, but I like him. He hasn't played more than 10 games in the season since he was on the Niners, but I'm a big fan. He's almost 35. So you could do that. I don't think they will. Or they could trade for Jesse Bates, but that might take a first-round pick. He's a really good player. He's in Atlanta. Raheem Morris was over there. Or they could draft a guy. And I think they're going to draft a guy. Again, I don't think the Niners want to spend that much money on outside free agents. They traded for Oso Digizua. That was a big investment. Mike Evans is a glorified 1-year deal. Christian Kirk is a 1-year deal. I mean, freaking John Lynch isn't signed beyond this year. I don't think the Niners are making big moves for the future. But if they were going to make one, Jesse Bates would be interesting. I'm looking at this offseason as a Raheem Morris offseason. My working hypothesis is that John Lynch doesn't really make picks. He has his coaches. And, when they drafted Renardo Green in round 2, that was a Nick Sorensen pick. When they drafted Jair Brown in round 3, that was a Steve Wilkes pick. He had the vision for him. Last year when the Niners took Marquise Siegel in round 5, that was a Robert Saleh pick. So now you got Raheem Morris. We have no idea. I mean, we do have an idea of what he likes because he's been in the league a long time and he was in Atlanta and they had a GM, but I'm sure the GM consulted with Raheem Morris. And last year what Morris did is he took 2 edge rushers in round 1. Boom, 15 and 29. Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr. Both guys weighed 245 or less. These are guys who are true 3-4 outside linebackers, not Bryce Huff, a guy who can, rush on third down but not do anything but go forward. Like, he wants guys who can drop into coverage. He wants guys who can drop into coverage a couple times a game, not a couple times a year, 2-3 times a game. It's not Joey Bosa. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners, they need to draft. They need to address safety and defensive end. They could go get veterans at both spots. I don't know they want to spend any more money. They got to draft something. It's not going to be offensive line. Probably won't be wide receiver. Safety and D-end are 2 spots where the Niners need to add starters. You can't go into this freaking season with Sam Okwanu as the designated edge rusher on pass downs when Mykel Williams moves to the interior next to Oso Digizua. Can't happen. I mean, it can happen if you don't want to win the Super Bowl. Are they still doing the quest for 6? Is that still a thing? Do they talk about that anymore? Or did they figure out that the journey was more fun than the destination anyway? And what you really need is the friends you make along the way. That's what matters. Forget winning a championship. That's hard. If all that matters is making friends and being happy, then you win every year. But yeah, so Raheem Morris, he took 2 DNs, really outside linebackers, little dudes, Leonard Floyd types. And then in round 3, he took 2 DNs, and then after that, he went safety. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one making the picks. He could do the same thing. Edge rusher round 1, safety round 2. And it's like, which one is the bigger need? Because the Niners draft for need. They don't draft best player available. What the fuck does that mean? I've never heard of that. It's need. And it's like, on the one hand, you could say it's safety because they draft a starting safety. That's a 3-down player. He doesn't come off the field. They don't need a 3-down defensive end. Not really looking for a 3-down D lineman because they got to play Mykel Williams 3 downs. They took him top 11. They got to play Nick Bosa 3 downs. You're looking for like a Bryce Huff replacement, a D Ford replacement. So if you could take that guy in round 1 for sure, no doubt. Or you can take him round 2. The way I look at it is I think DN's the bigger need because you just don't have anyone on the roster who can be the designated pass rusher. Bryce Huff could have done it. He's gone. Sam Okwanu is not that guy. And at free safety, you have a couple guys who can play the position poorly. And Jair Brown and Marquise Siegel. Marquise Siegel might even be able to play it at an acceptable level this year. He could improve. So you have bodies there. You don't have bodies at defensive end. So I'm with Richard Sherman. I understand the value of a veteran safety. They're not going to get a veteran safety. They would have gotten one already. They're going to roll with Jair Brown and Marquise Siegel, and they're probably going to draft the guy in round 2. Could draft a guy in round 1. They haven't taken a safety in round 1 since freaking Jimmy Ward, who was drafted to play nickel. They also took Eric Reed in round 1. These were Trent Baalke picks a decade ago. John Lynch has not taken a safety before round 3. And the highest he's taken a cornerback is Renardo Green at the end of round 2. So if they were to take a DB with that second round pick, it'd be the highest pick they've used on a DB under John Lynch. I still think it could happen because Raheem Morris is here. Raheem Morris has a history of taking DBs high. He took he coached AJ Terrell in Atlanta. He wasn't there when they drafted him, but he was a first round pick. I don't think they should. I don't want them to draft a cornerback in round 1. To me, that's creating a need. You have Renardo Green. He's good. He's not great, but he's good. And he's a lot better than Jair Brown. Upton Stout's good. Diamond Lenore's good. Renardo Green's good. They're not the freaking problem. You don't have a good safety. Malik Mustafa, frankly, isn't good. He was coming off an ACL last year. He makes some nice hits. He does nothing in coverage. Jair Brown is a slow, big version of Malik Mustafa. Marquise Siegel, maybe. That's the only guy. Marquise Siegel and Malik Mustafa are definite maybes. Jair Brown's a no. Jason Pinnock's gone. But of course, they're going to take a wide receiver in round 1 because it's Kyle Shanahan. No, they're not going to take a wide receiver in round 1. I sincerely believe they're going to go defense early because I don't think they want young players on offense. They got the 3 youngest. They got 3 players in their 20s on offense starting, and they're all 26. Pearsall, Brock, Pooney. 26. If you're 21, you're never going to play for the 49ers. How old is Jordan Watkins? Not old enough. See you in 3 years, buddy. So what's the point of drafting more players that Kyle won't play until their 5th year in the league? They don't need any like starters right now on offense because they got Mike Evans and Christian Kirk. But they definitely need starters as safety and DN or contributors. So I think that's what they're going to do. And let's go through it. Round 1. What do we think the Niners are going to do in round 1? I think this is going to be defense once again. And even though they took D-line last year, I don't think that's going to preclude them from doing it again this year. They love taking D-line in round 1. It's what they take the most of. And I get it. They're not close to having a dominant offensive line. They're not even trying. They want to be serviceable in the offensive line. Fine. Whatever. So they're not going to go O-line there. They want to be dominant on the D-line, and they're not yet. They've improved. Also, Diggy was a big improvement. But you don't know what Bosa's going to be this year. You don't really know when he's coming back. He wasn't that great before he went down. He was good. If you bring in Max Crosby, you're talking Super Bowl. It doesn't seem like they're going to do that. But if they take a DN in round one and he's good and they get it right, they could win the Super Bowl. That's why I keep looking at this particular position. If they get this right, if they get a legit stud opposite Bosa, they can win it all. They're one edge rusher away from having one of the best D-lines in the league. And I don't think they're going to go get Max Crosby. Joey Bosa won't. That's why I'm like, don't waste your time with these Christian Kirk, Joey Bosas of the world. You could argue that they're, they could sign Joey Bosa and say, well, he was worth the money and it's just a one-year deal. Nah, man, do better. Do better. Don't tell me you went to the 99-cent store and you got something for 99 cents. No, man. That's not where you're shopping. So round one, again, I'm pretty sure Morris is looking for true 3-4 outside linebackers. He wants the guys who have the versatility to be able to drop into coverage. That's why he wanted Leonard Floyd when the Niners didn't. That's why he drafted Jalen Walker when the Niners took Mykel Williams. Niners could have had Jalen Walker. He's a better player than Mykel Williams, but they didn't take him. Because where would you put him in the Niners defense? Where would Saleh put him? Oh, he'd be a weak side. Okay. Now you got a different guy in a different system. So I'm looking at 3-4 outside linebackers who weigh no more than 245. Maybe you make an exception for Cassius Howell or Malachi Lawrence, who are about 250. I don't know these guys that well. I'm just starting to get to know him. I'm just trying to think like Morris and what he wants, what he's had success with. And there's two guys who were supposed to go on day 2, maybe early, maybe as high as day 1. 27 is kind of late. And it's R. Mason Thomas and Joshua Josephs. Where am I getting this? Oh, yeah. There's also Arvell Reese, but he's going to be a top 5 pick. But I think the ones that would interest Morris are Joshua Josephs, R. Mason Thomas. R. Mason Thomas is really interesting. He's had a lot of injuries, so he's right up the Niners' alley. And he ran like a 4.6, which is kind of slow, 4.67. But you can get the GPS data from when he plays. And when he, runs the hoop, like goes around an offensive tackle, he can get to 11, 12 miles an hour in like 4 steps, which is pretty crazy. That's what the Niners look for. How much ground can you cover in 4 or 5 steps? That was the D Ford thing. And when you go on NFL.com and look at R. Mason Thomas's draft profile, they compare him to D Ford. So I wouldn't be surprised if they took him. He went to Oklahoma. Joshua Josephs could work as well. Again, I'm not saying I've grinded hella tape on these players and I can tell you which one's better than the other. I'm just trying to tell you where Morris might start his search for this player. This player is going to be a star. The strong side outside linebacker, and he's a starter. So if the Niners are going to have a 3-4 base defense, which they might, then this player here isn't just Bryce Huff coming off the bench on 3rd down. He's standing up next to Mykel Williams on the line of scrimmage on 1st down. And then he's going to a 3 or 4 point stance in the nickel defense. So those are a couple guys to look for. I think I feel pretty confident that the Niners are going to go edge here. If they weren't, they would have signed someone other than Sam Okwana, who isn't that good. When I say that good, I don't think I need to use the word that. He has like a motor, but he doesn't do anything well. Is he a good pass rusher? No. Is he a good run defender? No, but he tries hard. Sam Okwana experience. His technique is great. He tries so hard. His motor is great. Does he make plays? No, not at all. Never. But he tried to. He meant well. Of course, the Niners could go safety in round 1 if the dude from Oregon, Dylan Thieneman or Eric McNeil, whatever the hell that guy's name is, with the 3 names. I love a 3-name guy. from Toledo. If the Toledo dude or the Oregon dude are there at 27, I could definitely see the Niners taking their first safety in round 1 since Jimmy Ward. I just don't think they're going to be there. Daniel Jeremiah hasn't been there in his top 20, both of them. Hey, like my hair today. It's got a little extra wave curl. Trying to cultivate some curl, man. What do you think? So let's talk round 2. If the Niners go edge rusher in round 1, which I expect they will, I think they're going to come back and go safety in round 2. They could go wide receiver. But what is the point of drafting a wide receiver high when you just signed 2 guys who are going to definitely get the playing time? So any wide receiver you draft isn't going to play this year, right? Barring injury, the wide receiver you take is going to just have another redshirt season because you got your top 3 guys set. You already have 2 wide receivers who are hanging around in a perpetual redshirt state because you don't like playing. You're prejudiced against young players. What's the point? I think that would be the dumbest thing they could do. And same goes for running back. Why would you draft a running back in round 2 when you drafted one last year that you didn't play and you drafted one the year before that you didn't play? And you're supposed to be developing them, right? You don't just draft people in round 4 and 5 to say, fuck it. I'm kidding. LOL. You literally traded Debo for Jordan James. And Debo went on to have 800 yards. Jordan James didn't even have a chance to do anything. So safety would be a great way to go. I don't want him to go corner. Replacing Ronaldo Green for the sake of replacing Ronaldo Green is dumb, dude. Replace Jair Brown. And the guy I think they should get is Keontae Scott. Let me tell you about him because I know him so well. I love college football. He's from San Diego, 5'11", 193. He went to Miami, so he's on one of the best teams in the country. Got an NFL.com draft grade of 6.3, which means they think he'll eventually be a plus starter. That's pretty good pedigree. Here's what they say about him. Scott's play style and tackle production resemble that of a will linebacker. He's edgy and urgent near the line with an ability to slip or play off blocks. He can snuff out run plays before they get started. Scott lacks ball production due to inconsistent break anticipation and route squeeze, but he can twitch and trigger to close windows, rapid finish. He keeps yards after contact to a minimum. Scott's blitz talent off the edge makes him a valued added rusher. He's an older prospect and needs to play in a scheme that allows him to keep his eyes forward, but Scott's football character should make him a team favorite as a starting nickelback. He sounds like Jimmy Ward. It's what he sounds like to me. And again, I've been investigating Keontae Scott all day. For a full day, I've done research, which makes me a Keontae Scott expert, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I don't have to be an expert. I'm just trying to lead you down Raheem Morris's thought process. I'm trying to help you figure it out. If you're trying to figure out who the Niners are going to draft this year, try to think like Raheem Morris because he's their GM now when it comes to picking defensive players. And the way I look at it is Kyle has decided that he's never going to draft offensive players again, or if he will, he's going to redshirt him for 8 years. Curtis Rourke, you think you're playing football this decade? No. Sorry. You got drafted because they want to stash you for life. They saw you in your football dreams and they're like, guess what? You're never playing football again. We like you that much. That's why we handpicked you. Keontae Scott, check him out. Day 1 starter in round 2 for the 49ers. Could play a little nickel, could play a little safety. Nah, but watch, they're just going to put Hobbs at safety, huh? That'll be fun. I'd like to see the Niners finish their defense and actually make it elite, but why do I think they won't? Lamont 757 says, what will our first pick this year says about Niners? What will our first pick say this year about the Niners? We'll say where they think they need help. And if they've learned from the past and who's making picks. Nairwatt08 says, LOL, what receiver you think will be healthy week 1? Oh, man. I think Mike Evans will be healthy week 1 for sure. Jimer says, pick a running back around 1. Send CMC a message. We need a new running back. Send CMC a message? The guy who needs a freaking message is Kyle, man. It's not CMC's fault that Kyle has no new ideas, no creativity. Send him a message. I feel you. I feel you. Joseph for real says fans against Aiyuk are likely the same that voted for this incompetent Prez. As our gas prices rise, Barron gets a leg up on oil investments. My favorite people be like, I didn't see this coming whatsoever. This is not what I voted for. Like, I love that. That's my favorite. All day, every day, Kim says, NYG will be better than SF this season. The Giants. Hey, I think Niners going to be really good this year. If they can stay healthy. Barron Trump is 6'7". That's a big-ass leg. What? All right, well, thanks for watching another riveting episode of the Grant Cohn Show, where I react to breaking news 24 hours late. This is why I'm at the top of the pecking order. This is why it's me and everyone else. Other people tell you their thoughts as the thing is happening. I'm like, no, I'll get to it tomorrow. I got other things to do. That's journalism. Doesn't journalism sort of imply like talking about things the day they happen, like a journal? Ashley says, guys, it's 95 degrees in Grant's office right now, and he closes the windows to make the best streams. LOL. Will he make it to the end of the show or pass out in front of us all? Can you see that I'm perspiring? Can you see my perspiration? Can you imagine how stinky it is in this room right now? Do you guys ever think about that? No, I don't open the windows. I just sit in this room all day. It's terrible. No wonder I have sciatica. That AG1 is keeping him so hydrated right now. This has all been one elaborate ad read for AG1. No, but really, do you like my hair? I tried to I feel like the heat is bringing out a little curl, and I like it. You know what I'm saying? Anytime you get a little curl. My mom used to dye my hair. She used to put bleach in it because I had blonde hair when I was a baby, and then it started getting dark and she didn't like it. So she used to put something called sun in it, which was just so dishonest. Had people thinking I was dirty blonde. I'm not dirty blonde, but I do have curly hair. It's not a perm. I got to bring it back. I think I can bring it back. I just need a lot of hairspray. Top flight journalistic prowess. Yeah, with a Jerry curl. I'm bringing it back. I did have frosted tips. I went full Eminem in 2001, 2, 8th grade. Girls loved it. They were like, wow. I should do it again. Do people still do that? If you Google Grant, they have a picture of him with curly hair in high school. Hell yeah. Sexy ass kid. That sounded wrong. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.